Hey, Matt, it's always a pleasure to get together with you. And as you know, I'm the president and CEO of Energy Fuels, probably one of the most exciting carbon reduction electrification plays, I believe, out there in the entire world.
Well, Mark, good to see you as always. I mean, we saw you back at the beginning of October, but it's been all quiet. If you don't sound too busy at the moment. No press releases, no news.
No, it has been quiet, Matt, but it's not because we're not busy, and quite the opposite to that. We're advancing our plans. Every day we get more excited about where we're taking the company with all the great things that we're doing with rare earths and uranium. Who would ever thought that it would be so market would be so supportive for reducing carbon emissions and focused on electrification, as I said. So we it's been quiet, but we certainly haven't been standing still.
No, you haven't. I mean, the share price up 30% since the last time I spoke to you, actually. And the rarest bit, I want to talk about the rarest bit in a second, but you position yourself as US's #1 uranium company, okay? And we've had people kind of write into us and say, look, these guys are over 1.7 billion Canadian market cap now. They're not producing anything. There's no cash flow here. At some point they're going to need to backfill the valuation a bit. So the pointed question is, White Mesa Mill, you're going to need to feed that. Where is that feed going to come from? Have you got enough? Or are you going to have to work with some of these other US wannabe producers?
Well, Matt, the White Mesa Mill has been around for 40 years, and I don't believe it's permitted for 8 million pounds of uranium. The maximum it's ever produced is about 4 or 5 million pounds per year. So it's never ran at capacity. Do we have enough projects to feed the mill? Absolutely, we do, but not to produce 8 million pounds of uranium. So we have about 6 permitted projects. When we talk about the LaSalle complex, that is, I think, 4 different mines in a grouping. With this divestment with CUR, we've got 3 permitted projects there that they're, I believe, planning to develop. So no, we're in great shape with the mill. And also having the ability to feed the rare earths into the mill, as well as some of our recycling business. So when it comes to where we secure our feed, we're going to deal with the people we want to deal with, and we won't deal with those that we don't want to deal with. So, but yeah, the mill has been undercapacitated from the day it was built.
Okay, so a couple of points there. One, so the question was, and I'm going to assume you get the price that you want. You've always talked to us about 60, 65 bucks, but assuming you get the price that you want, whatever that may be, the 6 projects that you have, you would aim to produce how much a year from those? Yeah.
Well, with the right market conditions, with limited capital, we can produce initially about that 1.5 to 2 million pounds per year. With long-term contracts, we have the ability to expand from there, but it'll take more capital. So, right now, what we're looking at is, and the market seems to be coming to us as it is other uranium producers that have legitimate properties. There's not a huge spread between, where the utilities are, I believe, at this point in time and where it starts making sense. So we're seeing a pickup in RFPs from various utilities. So, our first rung is at 1.5 to 2 million pounds. We'll build that on a modular basis, probably in like 500,000 pound increments. And we have the ability to do that because we have multiple assets ready to go.
Okay, and you've also done a deal, in fact, last time we spoke with Consolidated Uranium. You've got 3 projects with them, which you are going to be the operator of? Is that correct?
Well, yeah, right now we're the manager of that. I've joined the board with CUR, and they're planning to do work on those properties right now. And that's the main reason we divested them, is that we have our priorities set on our assets, our existing assets that remain, and the rare earths, and we just didn't have time. So they're very excited about getting going with some of the uranium projects right now.
So that'll be 9 projects, uranium projects that would feed into the mill. You've got the uranium, the vanadium component, and also the recycling component. That's something we've talked about ad nauseum in the past. So you feel that is as much as you need right now. However, the second point you mentioned there may be other parties outside of the Consolidated Uranium guys who may want to or need to use your mill, and we've had people like Western Uranium Vanadium say that they're going to use your mill. I think you said to us last time, well, that's news to you, and others too. So at the moment, has any of those conversations begun? Any of those conversations advanced? If you have been talking to them, or, are they going to be able to use your mill and give you the feedstock you need?
We're having no discussions with anybody except with CUR.
Right. Okay.
So we look at we're happy with the projects that we have. The focus that CUR is going to put on these other projects at this point in time. Now, does that change? Depends what the price of uranium is and the market itself. But we're in very good shape with the assets we have or the relationship. We own 19.9% of CUR, and at this point in time, that's we're good.
Okay, so the old adage, he controls the mill, controls the district, applies. You're not rushing into any other relationships with any other producers, potential producers outside of Consolidated Uranium, right? Clear.
Correct. Not at this time.
Got it. Okay. Now, come back to my point about backfilling valuation at 1.7 billion Canadian market cap. That's a big chunk of company there. The market's got excited about uranium at various points during the year. I think vanadium is not so much on the agenda at the moment, but rare earths is. You said you've been busy. You haven't been making announcements, but you say you've been busy. But busy doing what?
Yeah, well, busy advancing our strategy, and most of that focus has been on the rare earths. And I mean, if you look at us and where we trade with the uranium peers, we're still kind of in the middle of that. And if we're overvalued on uranium, then everybody else is overvalued, but they don't have the rare earth component. And if you look at the main players in the rare earth business, like the MP Materials and the Linuses and stuff, I mean, they're at like 6-7 billion in market cap. They're huge. And I think that's what reflects, where we're trying to drive our bus here, with getting recognition that the rare earths are going to be a major contributor to our company's cash flows over time. And we still have uranium. So, if you invest in us, you're investing in a diversified opportunity for reducing carbon emissions and helping with electrification. So, I mean, there really isn't any investment you can compare us to because of the way that we have these 2-3 opportunities. Actually, if you start looking at the isotope, emerging isotope opportunity that nobody else has.
And again, we talked about the various points you've gone and chosen to raise money. So what are you sitting on? I saw the Q3 numbers. It was whatever, 132 in cash and marketable securities. So
yeah, I mean that was our last reported release, and again, that's assuming that uranium prices are, I believe, $23 a pound, and vanadium at $5 a pound. So if you adjust that to current price of uranium, vanadium, that 130 something is very conservative, and it also doesn't include the fact that we monetize these non-core assets and some of the other tradable securities we have. I mean, we probably got another in the order of $30 million of securities as well on top of that. So we're in a very, very strong position, and so we're completely funded to do all the activities we need to do over the next couple of years as we pull this rare earths and uranium sector together in a way, as I said, that nobody else can do.
Right, and I think you laid that out for me last time we spoke, but I just want to be really clear, because you burned through a chunk of cash. You burned through like $8 million bucks in Q3 to advance the rare earths component. So I'm intrigued by what you've done recently and what that's setting you up for in 2022, because you got the cash to advance things, but what have you actually done recently on the rare earth side?
Well, look, we're still we're trying to secure the monazite for the front end. And I've said this before, we're talking to everybody out there in the world that's got either producing monazite or want to produce monazite. That hasn't changed. And a number of these parties are kind of amping up their interest in the plan that we're putting together. I've talked about we're making the carbonate. We're shipping it to NEO in Estonia at the Silmet operation. That's going very well. We're processing monazite sands right now. Another new batch that's come in from Chemours. We're out there trying to purchase some monazite as sort of a bridge. We're not limited. If anything, the guys in the mill call me up and they say, hey, we need more monazite sand. So we really need to fill that up. And we're advancing the separations. We did some initial scoping work with Carester out of France. We're looking at moving that forward in a much bigger way. The guys are doing separation at lab scale with the chloride route right now, and they're building out another circuit for piloting for the nitrate route right now. So, we're advancing. We're starting to look at metals and alloys. When we say we're focused on full integration in the rare earth supply chain, we are looking at full integration at world scale.
Yeah. I guess as an investor, I'm also dealing with some of the questions that have been sent in, right? So, some people are like, White Mesa is not operating at full capacity. But on the other hand, businesses are about making money, right? Money. I care more about the fact that money you can make, margin you can make, net profit you can make, rather than are you busy being busy. So give me a sense of what it's like processing uranium versus processing rare earths and separating eventually in terms of margins, because you mentioned you're putting yourself on the same stand as Mountain Pass or MP as it is now, Linus, etc. And these are multi-billion-dollar companies. You're at the beginning of that journey, but to get there, you're going to have to get stuck into the rare earths component. So can you give us a sense of sort of the economics, even as a ratio or however you want to do it? I just want to understand how much more important is rare earths.
Within what I can talk about, Matt, obviously, but we're not where Linus is at this point in time. I mean, when it comes to producing carbonate, we're actually ahead of Mountain Pass at, chemically producing the carbonate. But so we still have a lot of work to do, but we're first and foremost a uranium company, but I believe that we can be a low quartile rare earth producer of world scale with the activities and the advances we're making at the White Mesa Mill. On the uranium front, we're never going to be competitive with Kazakhstan. Okay, we're typically upper quartile, maybe third quartile. And so the biggest prize we have, in addition to the fact that we have we've been the largest producer of uranium for the last several years. We got more assets fully paid for in the United States in the history of being the material biggest producer, second to Cameco in the United States. We've got that. We trade in that peer group, but we have the ability, I believe, to be low quartile on the rare earths at world scale. We'll never achieve that as a uranium producer. I mean, you've got the Camecos, you've got the Kazatoproms, they're in a different league than we are, and everybody else in the United States. They're not going to be there either. So, so when I say what kind of margins, right now, our biggest margins are on the rare earth space, with uranium also being substantial, but not at the same sort of scale or opportunity of scale as compared to the rare earths.
Right. Okay. I think that's what people are sensing from a story. So, uranium's going to make you money. Vanadium's going to make you money, but it's a nice solid business. It's the biggest in the US for those things. But rare earths is an entirely different quantum in terms of margin. Hence the investment in that using White Mesa. That's what you're going for.
I believe our rare earth strategy that we're putting together is in another league.
Right. And just want to be clear, when you say lowest quartile producer, you mean lowest cost quartile, therefore in terms of maximizing the sorts of returns that you expect. So you guys must have started doing some numbers. You must have an indication and sense of what this could look like. And I know you're not going to give me numbers, but I'm going to say it's definitely worth the investment for you is what I'm hearing. But when do we get to know?
Yeah. Well, look, again, I've got to be careful on disclosure. And, but, as we've said all along, people like Konstantin Karyanopoulos saying that the focus on monazite sands, game changer. Okay. I don't think game changer would be in the upper quartile. And we believe that with the combination of the monazite, the grades, the processing costs, the operating in the United States, the fact we have existing infrastructure, permits, and all that rolled up with some of, sort of the initial estimates that we've received from Carester on the build out of separation plant, we think it all rolls up into a very, very nice and exciting package. But we have to show that we have the feed. We can't promise returns when we haven't lined up the feed yet. But as I said, people get it. People that are producing monazite get it, and they understand if they want to decouple or partially decouple from China. Right now, we're the only game in town that can do it at scale.
Okay, I hear what you're saying on that front. I think that we would love some sort of sense of the numbers, or like to start to understand what this thing could look like, even by inference or some peer analysis type work. Once you get once you understand how much monazite you can get a hold of, and therefore how much you can process. But the other thing is here, when I look back at the conversations we've had in the past with regards to uranium and the US government's involvement, we've talked about US Reserve, we've talked about them actually putting some money in to support US producers, but nothing's really materialized. And those catalyst moments came and went. And once again, we're seeing, US senators, in this case, Utah senators, Mike Lee, Mitt Romney get involved. We've seen, with your open day, you had big banks turn up. You had lots of investor interest. Has this moved to the point where those people are putting their money where their mouth is, or are they giving you indications of how they'd like to get involved, or is it just still a watching brief for them?
Well, look, I think to a certain extent, even though with the uranium reserve, the funds were appropriated and they're there, and the DOE is trying to figure out how they would incorporate those funds into the reserve. The market is moving quicker than the government is, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, depending on how you look at it. So, the market tends to be fixing itself. And yeah, I mean, as well as I do that, we took the leading role, I believe, in this whole uranium reserve, going back 3-4 years when the market was less frothy than it is right now. But the market seems to be fixing itself. And I think that the banks and investors are coming in for the dynamics right now of what's happening right now and the interest with nuclear power, the moves with small modular reactors, the focus on decarbonization, and then in our case, the improvements and the focus on the rare earth sector. When we got into the rare earth business, or announced about 18 months ago, we were getting into it. The price of NdPr, the neodymium and praseodymium, was like $45 or $50 a kg. It's now like $150 per kg. It has gone up threefold in 18 months. I don't think people really understand, how attractive the rare earth business is right now. And that's one of the reasons that Linus and MP have performed so well, is just that alone. And the uranium business has also done very well, but it hasn't gone up threefold in the last 18 months. Probably double, but not triple.
Yeah, it's a very interesting market there at the moment. Well, here's a question for you with regards to the influence of Sprott and these the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust is having in the market. Obviously, it caught the eye. It caught the attention of many people. It can obviously drove spot price up, which is great. Brought investors from outside of mining, into the space, and people got very, very excited. And that's obviously fallen away, I think, from most uranium companies in the last couple of months, as I think Split waits to see if when its New York listing will happen, etc. But do you welcome a sort of synthetic financial overlay to this market? Do you think that helps, other than the marketing fervor? I'm talking about the realities of the functional operational component. Like, for instance, would you consider selling all of your production to an intermediary like Split and not deal with utilities, or do you feel that Split just needs to be part of the mix, not try and insert itself wholly? How do you view them?
Well, I think the Sprott Fund has been great. I mean, it's put a refocus on the market and supply demand, and then Kazatomprom saying that they're going to buy uranium as well too. When it comes to our inventories, we're looking at those inventories of U.S. origin that we produced. I always like to emphasize that. And how we look at that in terms of, various responses we make on RFPs for, contracts or for looking for long-term contracts. But, if it made sense for us to sell some to Sprott or others, we'll consider that as well, too. I mean, it's interesting that if you look at what we have, the uranium on our books at the prices that are included in our working capital last reported period, and the increase of uranium and vanadium, I mean, we've basically gotten appreciation of our inventories that is, equal to or approximately equal to our burn. So holding inventory has not been a bad place to be right now. And particularly when you look at the future, because even in that mid 40s, that's still not the replacement value of a pound of uranium. You still need to get into the, the 50s or the 60s to really get to a fair replacement value. So, we're just kind of holding our cards with our inventory, and we'll see where it goes. But it gives us a lot of optionality. And as I said, it's been a good place to be with the increases in both uranium and vanadium.
It has, but I just again, I always wonder what changes in terms of the market dynamics when you've got a new entrant and it's a financial. I always refer to it as a synthetic financial overlay. Could you move from it's obviously moving from a buyer's market to a seller's market. It's in that slow transition period at the moment. But could this ever become a sort of wholesale market, in the sense that if you've got someone like a Split, I'm not sure what it's allowed to do or not, but if it could come and buy from producers wholesale, hold, and then sell into utility at a kind of retail price, that would be, it'd be interesting and awkward.
Yeah. Well, Matt, look, and I've always said that speculative buying can end up to be speculative selling. Okay. And if you look at the run up in that 2006-07 period where the price went to $135 a pound, a lot of that run up was speculative buying of stuff. Now, I don't understand all the dynamics and the mechanisms of the Sprott Uranium Trust, but it is my understanding that they have some restrictions of how they would put that back out in the market at some time, and so I think that is good. But I think what it does show, and I think this is what's really quite interesting, that even though they bought a lot of uranium, I think it's starting to show that there's only so much uranium to really buy. People talk about these big inventories and all that, and I think it's showing that there's only so much uranium to buy, and that's why you can tighten up the price of uranium with relatively, in the scheme of things, small purchases.
And what about your? I mean, you're the CEO, right? So you've got a lot more moving parts now, right? And you're potentially building something which is even bigger than uranium. So uranium's good. It's core. It's a revenue generator for you. But will you be looking to appoint any new people to the board to help you with the different aspects of the business? I know we talked several months ago that you got some new advisory type roles, but not necessarily operationally.
Yeah. Well, we're growing. We're growing. We're hiring people, and we have to look at the entire business in a holistic way from the board down. So we're growing. We're adding people. I had a new environmental person come into my office today that was hired to help with some of the permitting work and environmental compliance work that we're doing. So we're looking at it. Again. We've been running very lean for a long time now. I have to say that with the people we have, people have been working really, really hard. And so, but we're looking at how and where we need to fill some of the gaps that as we grow. I mean, we basically have effectively the same staff that we had when we were, $100 or $200 million of market cap. Now we're well north of $1 billion US. So yeah, you got to be dynamic.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, Mike. Look, we haven't, I don't think we've got time to talk about thorium or radium or other things like that. But I just wanted to catch up because it's just for Christmas. Looking back, it's been a fairly dynamic year for you guys. Big idea being delivered. I'm intrigued. The path forward and what that looks like. What are you looking forward to in 2022? What are the big moments for you?
Well, again, hopefully uranium prices continue to rise and we can sign some long-term contracts that make sense for us. And then we start up some of our uranium properties, hopefully in 2022 or, early in 2022. I want to show our investors that this rare earth is real and that it's happening. And I've said this many times. We think big. We think big, and I cannot believe how blessed I am to have these two very exciting opportunities. The two just being uranium and rare earths in my hands right now. We're thinking big. We are aggressive, but we're not reckless. We've got the right funds and the right people, and we're in the right space at the right time. And so I believe 2022 will be a very significant year for us and our shareholders. But we've got to connect a few more dots, and I think we will do that based on the interest that we're having on so many fronts. It should be hopefully a remarkable year, as this year was a remarkable year. But I really believe we'll be in a better position for people to understand our entire business model in 2022.